Today we're going to try to tackle an issue which, if you actually learn the sugya, liba de halacha, according to halacha, you'll find that it's actually not so clear. What is the story? Why do people dress up on Purim? Why do people wear costumes? So the first place to look is at the end of Orach Chaim in the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Tafrei Shadivav. At the end of the Ramah over there, he's coming from a tshuva from the Maharam Mintz. If you look at it on the side, it's a pretty lengthy tshuva. And he discusses the halachas of dressing up, the custom of dressing up, what you shouldn't dress up as, and very interesting discussion over there. However, it's really not mentioned by anyone as to why we get dressed up on the page of the Shulchan Aruch. You learn the halachas, you're kind of like, okay, this is a halacha, but why are we doing it over here? So we're gonna attempt to present multiple reasons as to why there's a custom to get dressed. First of all, there's a beautiful analysis of this topic in the sefer called Inside Purim by Strykov, and let's start with go a little out of order of what he says. Purim is a day that's dedicated to tzedakah and helping poor people. Matanos Yonim. There's a big idea of giving charity on Purim. Big concept over here. So the idea is like this, that they might be embarrassed to ask for money, which many times is the case. They don't want to. Now, when poor people, when they put on costumes or disguises, so they can't be recognized, it's easier for them to request for the tzedakah, for that charity, and to receive it. There's beautiful svarim that Rabbi Lundinsky put out. It's called Sukkos Chaim. They're not so known. And Rabbi Simcha Bunim Lundinsky. And on the Hanukkah section, on page Shin Samach Beis, he discusses over there why there's a custom to give Hanukkah gelt, to distribute money on Hanukkah or gifts on Hanukkah, which we discussed that in the past as well. So where exactly does that come from? Distributing money on Hanukkah over here. So there's a few explanations. The Magen Avram opens up all of Hilchos Hanukkah and Simin Tofrei Shayin by teaching this halacha no hagin hanaarim ha'aniyim l'savi b'Hanukkah al psachim, that there's a custom for poor people to go around on the doors on Hanukkah collecting money. And they ask the question over there in Hanukkah, what is so important about this halacha, about this custom of going around collecting money? What's the connection between collecting money on Hanukkah? What is so important about this to start all of the halachas of Hanukkah, not with something pertaining to the menorah, but rather about collecting money? That's another discussion. But the point is that this is where the custom developed to distribute money on Hanukkah, aka Hanukkah gelt, even to children who certainly come from families that have the means and that don't need the money. So comes the Sukkos Chaim and says it appears that this custom developed to distribute money to everyone, not just poor people, in order not to embarrass someone who doesn't have the money. So therefore, we see a sad hashava behen, a common denominator between Purim and Chanukah, that when it comes to collecting, we try to accomplish that by distributing the money in a way that it won't embarrass anyone who is poor. Beautiful idea, and we see the sensitivity of feelings that we have to have. That is answer number one. Answer number two is Chazal explain, the rabbis teach us that the threat of Purim was not really a threat at all. It only appeared as a threat because in the end, no Jews were exterminated. Many years before the time of the Purim Nes, the miracle, Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian ruler ruled over the first Beis Hamikdash, and he forced the Jews to bow down to idols. That's what he did. He forced the Jews to bow down to idols. So what's the idea over here? It's take a look in Daniel and Gimel Gimel. The Jews did so, but only because they were forced, they were coerced. They had to. And only for the sake of appearance, to look like as if they were doing so. But in their hearts, the Jews remained loyal to Hashem. As a punishment for this sin, midah keneged midah, measure for measure, a justified punishment, Hashem made only an appearance of a threat on Purim, based on the Gemara Megillah on Yud Beis. Just like the hearts of the Jews, in regards to Nebuchadnezzar's idol with Hashem, right? their real hearts were with Hashem, even when it came to the idols. So too, the heart of Hashem was with the Jews on Purim. And because of that, no calamity resulted at all. We dress up on Purim, therefore, which is the garb of people who aren't Jewish many times, to show that even though we sometimes sin and act inappropriately, like we're not supposed to, like Jews, that's only the outwards appearance. But the truth of the matter is, our heart is always with Hashem. That's the Bnei Yisachar, beautiful idea. Answer number 3. When Chazal inquire, the Gemara in Maseches Chulin on Kuf Lamed Tesamid Beis as to Esther min HaTorah minayin, how do you know? Remez lePurim min HaTorah minayin, rather. How do you know that there's a hint to Purim in the Torah? The answer is the pasuk Va'anochir hastir estir panai. Hashem says at the end of Dvarim, I will surely hide my face. That refers to Purim. Purim represents the first times that the Jews recognized that Hashem would hide his face by no longer performing supernatural and obvious miracles that were commonplace prior to the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Now, since the destruction, Hashem is constantly involved, but it's all Anochi Hastir, Astir, Hester, Megillus Esther, Esther, it's all hidden. It's all hidden. It's a behind-the-scenes situation, manipulating seemingly natural events or performing hidden miracles. But it's not a supernatural, open, and obvious and evident miracle. In view of the fact that the Purim miracle came about through Hashem's hidden face, we similarly hide our faces on Purim by dressing up on Purim and wearing different costumes. We hide ourselves. That is going to be answer number 3. Answer number 4 is we dress up because it's fun and it adds to the simcha of the day, the happiness of the day. That's another answer as well. Right? Answer number 5, when the Jews took the upper hand at the time of Purim, so everyone was disguising themselves, even people who weren't Jewish. Why? Because they were feared of the Jewish retribution. Now, in commemoration of this element of the great miracle, the custom developed to wear disguises on Purim. And lastly, we dress up to commemorate many wardrobes, disguises, and mistaken identities which happened in the Megillah that contributed to the manifestation of the Purim miracle itself, including but not limited to, and there's a lengthy list over here, Esther didn't reveal her background. Mordechai hid the fact that he knew 70 languages from Bigsan and Serish. Mordechai teared his clothing and put on sackcloth. Esther sent Mordechai clothing to change out of the sackcloth. Esther donned the royal robes to enter the room. Haman dressed Mordechai in royal robes to be paraded through the streets. Haman's daughter poured excrement, refuse on her father's head when she mistook. And she was mistaken when it comes to Haman for Mordechai in the parade, because Haman was wearing servant's clothing and Mordechai was wearing the royal robes. Eliyahu Hanavi disguised himself as Charvana and recommended to Achashverosh that Haman should be hung on the gallows, preparing for Mordechai. Also, Mordechai was being clothed in royal robes when he was following Haman's demise. The Jews were clothed in the Shekhinah, Hashem's divine presence, so to say, when they re-accepted the Torah on Purim. And lastly, Hashem hid his face during Purim, causing the miracle to occur in a hidden manner. So those are several answers as to why there's a custom to get dressed. There are halachas, just as a tangent point. Some of the fundamental halachas is regarding cross-dressing, and is that permissible or not? So someone who just reads the Ramah and then leaves will seem like, oh, it's clear, yeah, you could. However, the Mishnah Berurah over there in Siman Tafresh, Sadi Vav quotes the Taz, if I'm not mistaken, also the Bach, the Siman in Yoredeya, where it discusses these halachas, and it is definitely not preferable, maybe for little children to cross-dress, but we see from this an important hashkafa, a viewpoint of life, that we have to act our own gender, but that's another discussion in and of itself. So the cross-dressing is discussion. It's discussed also someone who's going to dress up something which would be practicing idolatry, as dress up as someone who practices idolatry. That would be an issue. Another potential issue is dressing up as Haman or a wicked person. That should not be done. There is an interesting tshuva from Rabbi Shmuel Vazner's Shilas Tshuva Shuvas Levi, Shevet Levi. Take a look at the Dershu Mishnah over there. They quote it. He says that it would be permissible for someone Hasidish as to dress up as someone Litvish, or vice versa, as long as you're doing it in a respectful way and you're not going to make a joke out of it, and you could even daven that way as long as you're dressed properly. And so those are some interesting tidbits and points regarding dressing up on Purim.